Okay, this is my cheesy intro, and this is my.
Yes, it's Lady Sovereign, Big Midget. Okay, this is a song all about how I grew up, so
Yeah, listen.
we used to play jump the line. Who could wrap the string around the frame the most times back in the day? Riding our bikes around the estate and playing.
Okay, this is my cheesy intro, and this is my.
Yes, it's Lady Sovereign, Big Midget. Okay, this is a song all about how I grew up, so
Yeah, listen.
we used to play jump the line. Who could wrap the string around the frame the most times back in the day? Riding our bikes around the estate and playing basketball in the cage. Those were the days. I remember the water fights and tap outside just to race to it on our bikes. Spinning with two front teeth missing. We did what we liked. Those days I'm missing. Them days were alright. Knock down ginger, knock then shift. 2 minutes later we got locked in the lift. Laughing when we got out. Got into silly arguments about who found the pound on the ground. Walked to the shop, bought about 10 ice pops. The weather was hot, said they melted in our pocket. Used to carry my belongings in the McDonald's bum bags. That was back then, so boy, don't look yeah. Those are the days I will never forget. Yeah. Those are the days I can never regret. Yeah. Those are the days I will never forget. Yeah. Those are the days. We used to race down the hill in old Safeway trolleys. I was indoors playing with Barbies or dollies. I was outside jumping off walls or playing football or getting chased by the local pit bull. The old character that every borough had. Mad Philip, Ginger Beard or Mad Max. The places you wouldn't want to see when you're on the jacks. And the places you wouldn't be if you stick to your pack. Stayed out till it was pitch black. Sprayed my name out on concrete slabs. And I never got bitch slapped. Seen a couple of mans get stabbed and chased by the madman. Gotta get back so I can catch stroke to my next door neighbor. We played the first Mortal Kombat on the Sega. Back then playing the latest jungle tunes. We had on cassette. Those were the days I would never forget. Yeah. Those are the days I would never forget. Yeah. Those are the days I can never regret. Yeah. Those are the days I would never forget. Yeah. Those are the days. Remember naff jackets and spliffy jeans, Adidas campers, them things are in. It wasn't about the king of the bling, it was the king of the rim or the king of the swing. What? Back
Good evening and welcome to the kitchen table on Radio Fodder. We begin tonight by acknowledging the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which this program is being broadcast. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We recognise First Nations peoples as the first storytellers, poets and artists to practice on this land and intend for tonight's program to continue respectfully in this tradition. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Good evening and welcome to Radio Fodder. The time is just past 6 and tonight Hugo and I, your hosts, are going to be talking about place.
Place, that's right. Welcome to the kitchen table. This is the dinner time show where you join us for good food, music and conversation.
Sure is. Why did we pick place for tonight? I'm not sure. I think place just and music are so, related. Like all artistry, place is such a thing that informs all music. And
music is place. Place is music. Yeah, fantastic.
we
What did
wanna-
we hear just at the beginning of our episode this evening, Eva?
I wanted to start off this episode with a song from one of my favourite albums of all time, Public Warning by Lady Sovereign. She is a really interesting artist who she just had one big album in 2005, 2006, part of the grime scene. Interesting character, grew up in Chalk Hill Estate, northwest London, which is a kind of renowned housing estate, which she's talked about at times being a dangerous and depressing place to grow up, but also a place where it just really informed her craft as a writer, and the place she grew up has such an influence on her music and the colloquial terms, and the energy of that place is just so audible in everything she writes.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting album because I also listened to it with my mum in the car a lot when I was growing up, and it was kind of my original feminist album. It has some awesome lyrics. Some of my favorite are my armpits smell a lot and no, I don't own a corgi, had a hamster, it died because I ignored it, go and try and report me, I'm English, try and deport me. She's an interesting character, but her intense location in place somehow also connects to my intense location in Melbourne.
A completely different place.
Yeah, like it's such a British song, this one that I played, Those Were the Days, from her first album, but it also connects me so strongly to Melbourne and driving around with my mum. Yeah. So I guess I wanted to start with that because I think it introduces the idea of, place being something you can connect to different places through music, gain a sense of the character of a place where an artist grew up, but then also connect it to places you've been.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I think it's a very exciting theme for this evening's episode, and I'm really excited to have a listen to some of the things that you've picked out. I'm also really keen to play for you the things I've picked out. But with that being said, of course, this is the kitchen table where we have food, and we're switching things up tonight, aren't we? Eva, you're cooking for us.
For once. For one time only. I've moved out for a month with a friend, and I am doing the cooking. Well, I am cooking a bit, and this is a bit of a radical concept because my culinary skills are limited, which is
radical cookery,
which is why Hugo normally does the cooking. But for all of our listeners who are not, the most technical, technical chefs, I do have this really simple recipe, which is just delightful and cheap and hearty. So it's tomato and white bean soup, and my mum taught me the recipe. So on a busy night, you just get 2 cans of canned tomatoes and 2 cans of white beans, and a bit of onion, some garlic, maybe some warm spices, and I just get whatever herbs are growing in whatever garden I'm close to. So thyme, lemon thyme, rosemary.
Just whatever you pick up, walking on the footpath.
On the sidewalk. Hopefully it is a herb, not just grass, but that could be interesting. Saute your onion, garlic, your herbs, your spices, put the tomatoes and white beans in, blend it all up while it's boiling hot.
Oh, so this is a smooth textured soup.
Well, you blend it to the point where it's still a bit chunky, but it's also smooth.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, okay, but it is the most delicious, hearty thing you could eat, and it's so easy, and it's so cheap, and it's good. And yes, this is
sounds great.
my foray into the world of cooking. You're welcome.
Thank you, Eva. That's a really impressive first recipe. I mean, tomato and white bean soup sounds like an absolutely delicious meal. I look forward to trying that sometime.
I'll make you some. And it does connect to our theme of place, because I will now forever associate this meal with my first kind of being out of home experience and the taste of freedom and liberty and walking the streets of a new suburb.
Oh, the taste of freedom. That's a good one.
The taste of freedom is tomato and white bean soup for all our listeners. So with that said, we should move on to some more music. And I will be playing tonight I'm just going to be focusing on one artist in particular who is Melbourne to me, which is ironic because they are originally from Queensland, but this artist, Rory Cook, was originally part of a band called Gaslight Radio, and now he is in a band called Eliza Band, who we almost saw on the weekend. We have an interesting anecdote about that for later. But I will just start by playing a song from the original band Gaslight Radio and talk a bit more about it once that has happened.
Thanks, Eva.
That was Here Comes Easy from Gaslight Radio's album Z Nation. So Gaslight Radio, the sound of this band is just Melbourne on a summer evening driving home from just a family friend dinner, and this sound is everything to me. Rory Cook is an artist who I kind of know because he was, you know, those figures in your groups of family friends who are just like kind of at every dinner party or event, but you never really talk to them. They're just there and they're like friends of friends.
This is the child's experience at all of the family dinners.
Yes. It's just this person. And I knew who he was, and I also knew his music, but I never connected them in my head. They were just two separate people. And these sounds are just, Melbourne to me. So that was from a song that came out in the 90s. And now I'm going to play another one from this album, and then we're going to skip to some of the music that he's making now. So...
Splinters are blue.
You're listening to The Kitchen Table. That was Take Another Look from Gaslight Radio's album Z Nation, which I said before came out in the 90s. I lie, it was 2003. I'm thinking of their first album, their first EP, Torchin Towns, Hankering Homes, which came out in 1996. And that was what started this band in Brisbane. Rory Cook and his brother and a couple of other artists. Early reviews compared the band to the Pixies because of their similar use of cascading guitars and dizzying counter melodies. Is something I read online. I didn't come up with that myself. They kind of are like, people don't know them. I talk about this band to people all the time, and no one knows who they are. But they did win an ARIA for Best Debut Album, and they've just kind of been in the punk scene for a long time. They're very interesting, and a lot of their music kind of has remained inaccessible to me as I've grown up. You know those songs you hear as a child that you initially understand completely? I mean, initially misunderstand, and then as you grow older, the lyrics start to make sense. This is the opposite. I just find it inaccessible, but in a kind of delicious way. It feels like you're listening to someone's melancholy reflections on their childhood, and it's located in a place that you just can't relate to so specifically.
Deliciously impenetrable.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that's alluring, but anyway, a later song from Rory is this song, The Preston Front, which is named actually after the suburb that I come from, Preston. And I don't know if he's written the song about the actual suburb, but he kind of lives near Preston now, I think. So maybe he has, and I've taken it very personally.
And this is the place connection for this evening.
This is the place connection. I also just feel as though his music is so located in a place within him. It's just like that inaccessibility that I'm trying to get across in his
I like
lyricism.
that interpretation of place. So we're talking about a geographical place in this upcoming track, but this is more of the metaphysical
place.
the place inside of us.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just a bit spellbound by this guy.
Fantastic. What's this next track that we're going to
This next track is The Preston Front, and I'll talk a bit more about it after I've played it.
Is to know what you really are.
was The Preston Front by Eliza Band. That is my favourite song of all time. It's just so melancholy and beautiful, and it's located in my suburb, Preston, which is one of the most underrated suburbs in Melbourne. People...
Oh, really?
Oh, it is. Everyone thinks, oh, it's across the Bell Street Divide, you know, the crazy Badlands, and it is very suburban and possibly not the prettiest suburb, but this song just makes me feel I've connected it to this sort of subterranean hidden beautiful culture that exists within Preston, and it's the beating heart of my suburban home. So that's place for me, and this artist, the sound of his voice, his music, his just strange kind of inaccessible lyricism is Preston and Melbourne to me. Summarized. But now that I've blabbed on about him, I do have a hilarious anecdote that you will share with our listeners as well from this weekend. What happened, Hugo?
Yeah, well,
I'm almost too devastated to
Eva
talk about it.
So excited to show us this track performed live at the Tote last Saturday. And we were on a night out, and we had everything was going to plan, and we were going to go to the gig. The band was on at 11:30.
I hadn't been thinking about much else all week.
Oh no, this was a big deal gig. This is not just something that we went to on a whim. We rocked up at the Tote, paid our entry fee
of $25.
And then we got our wrists stamped and wandered into the band room. Now, I'm not from Melbourne and have only been to the Tote once, which is this time. And
what a time it was.
And the band room, I assumed, was just the band room right in front of us.
We all assumed
that. In fact, I'm not taking any blame for what happened here. We wander into the wrong band room, in fact.
And we're waiting. They're supposed to come on at 11:30.
They come on like half an hour late.
Yeah.
And instead of the band that we're anticipating...
Well, there's a slow build-up. There's this sound. And I only know the main singer of this band, so I can't confirm whether the rest of the band is on stage and they've started this sort of strange chorus, this hypnotic, weird sound.
Yeah.
But there's still a light on the main microphone, so the lead singer hasn't come on, and I was saying, oh, this might actually be the right band. I don't recognize this music.
Waiting for the front man.
Oh.
We wait for the front man for half an hour. In the meantime, someone with an electric violin rocks up and starts tuning up. Someone, most notably, with a tin garbage can rocks up.
Decorated with plastic dinosaurs.
Which is soon to be used as an instrument for kicking and head bashing into the microphone.
Especially the head bashing. The head bashing got wild.
Anyway, we accidentally stumbled across a remarkable experimental noise event.
That was not Eliza Band.
It was not Eliza Band. It was an hour-long set, I think, with maybe 2 distinguishable separate songs.
No, I'm pretty sure it was one song.
Oh, okay. It was a mind and body sensory experience.
It was transcendental.
I won't forget it.
It was amazing. Yes.
I also won't forget it not being the right band.
No, it was devastating and magical all at the same time.
As the best things are.
Yes. All right. Well, Hugo, let's move on to you and your relationship with place in music.
Yeah. Well, thank
what
you
have
for
got to share with us?
Some excellent tracks to begin us off
That's
this evening,
okay.
Eva. When we discussed place as this evening's theme, I couldn't help but take things to the place that I'm most familiar with, which is my home city of Brisbane, where I lived until January this year, until I moved down here to go to uni. And Brisbane has quite a rich music history.
It sure does.
Even though it has a bit of a reputation as being kind of, I don't know, the odd one out. Brisbane has, for that very reason, quite a long history of music coming from people just trying to make their own fun, and people with intense DIY spirit.
Intense DIY spirit.
Well, you know, where there isn't where the broader population is not necessarily on your side, you kind of turn towards subcultures and subterranean collectives
I
to
like
make
it.
art.
That's
and
becoming a bit of a theme this
it is
episode.
Subterraneanism. So with that being said, I'm going to play some tracks this evening, which are quintessential Brisbane tracks. These have completely transcended the status of subterranean. I'm going to start with a track that I inherited from my parents. It was made in 1986. It's a Go-Betweens track, and it is the 4th track on their album Liberty Bell and the Black Diamond Express. I'm talking about Spring Rain, and we're going to hear it now.
Just like spring rain, falling just like sheets, coming down so hard, falling at my feet just like spring rain, coming down like water, falling here so smooth, falling in that groove just like spring rain. Falling down like love, coming down so hard, you hear it fall. Falling down, spring rain. Falling just like love, falling down so hard, you hear it fall.
You're listening to Radio Fodder. This is The Kitchen Table, and that was Spring Rain by the Go-Betweens.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I know. It's really one of my absolute all-time favourite tracks, and it truly does sound like Brisbane. And that was intentional. Robert Forster, who you heard singing there, wrote this song in London while the band was living there for some time. And this was kind of him reminiscing on Brisbane, the place that he grew up and the place that was kind of made the formative years of the Go-Betweens as a band, and the place that he ultimately has returned to and has continued a very prolific music career.
He
Truly.
has made so much
I know,
music.
fantastic. And his recent solo work is just as excellent and just as incredibly
Brisbane-esque.
esque. Yes. He has one music video that was released a while ago where he's like mowing his lawn in his backyard in his kind of slightly outer
You
suburb
saying
home.
Melburnians don't mow their lawns?
No, but it's like it's like a quintessential Brisbane backyard
Okay,
with his
okay.
house
Mhm.
and the Hills Hoist, which of course is not Brisbane unique, but it's still iconic nonetheless. Anyway, we're going to continue tonight on the kitchen table talking about songs about place.
Mhm.
My selection is songs specifically about Brisbane. We're going to hear a song by the Riptides. This one is called Sunset Strip.
All the friends had told me you were someone else, darling. I couldn't believe them. Oh, what the kiss of me. I would eventually go just to meet you. But now you've gone away. Say, what can I do? What do I come at? 77 Sunset Street, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Street, oh yeah, this love is real. 77 Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, oh yeah. See you every day at the school where you're standing around and you look so fine. I need to talk to you, just name the time and place. Oh, girl, I need to say I love you now and I always will, yeah. But now I find you kind of way, say, what can I do? Why don't you what's the matter? 77 Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, this love is real. 77 Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, oh yeah, come on now. Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, this love is real. 77 Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, oh yeah. Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, the love is real. 77 Sunset Strip, all the boys and girls are gonna find you out. 77 Sunset Strip, oh yeah, oh yeah.
You're at the kitchen table. This is Radio Fodder, and that was the Riptides with Sunset Strip. Just such a punky track there.
It was so bouncy. We
very
were listening
bouncy.
to it and both just bouncing in our chairs.
Actually, that's a great observation. Yeah, the Riptides are a band that's really close to my heart, my personal experience from my family as a collective. Interestingly enough, that song is the single of a compilation album that was made in 1977 called Resurface. It happens to be the first CD that I ever owned.
Oh, really?
Probably as a, 8-year-old maybe.
You bought it or a hand-me-down?
It definitely wasn't bought with my money, but
Okay.
it's definitely my CD.
Yes.
And I actually saw the Riptides playing live
No way.
at a similar age. I would have been definitely less than 10.
Uh-huh.
And they played a reunion gig at the University of Queensland where the band members were all
That's awesome.
they were all alumni. So they played a gig at an open day, I think.
And you didn't end up accidentally seeing a man bashing his head against a bin
There
instead
was
of the real
no
thing.
crazy experimental noise, but it was a memory that lasts to this day, because when they played their encore, which could have even been that song, because it's
Yeah.
like their most popular song, they invited all of the kids on stage.
No.
It was kind of in
Including you.
this outdoor gig in a grassy hill, and I jumped up on stage and was rocking out to this song. There's a video somewhere in the family archives.
Fantastic.
But it was a truly excellent experience. Remember it to this day. And for that reason, Sunset Strip is truly linked with Brisbane in my mind, as it is for a lot of people, especially of my parents' generation. You might be familiar with the lead singer that you heard singing there. His name is Mark Callahan.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he went on to be the frontman of Gangajang, who you might be familiar for their song "This Is Australia." Out on the patio we sit. We might play that later on on another episode.
Definitely.
But with that being said, I'm going to move to some more contemporary music. I do actually listen to it, believe it or not. Another Brisbane band. This is just maybe Brisbane royalty musically at this point.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's certainly one of my absolute favorite bands. I'm talking about Ballpark Music. And it was impossible for me to pick what track to play this evening. So I just picked one that I just happened to quite like. It's called Bad Taste Blues Part 2. And Eva's going to get the turntable cranking up right now.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's my own dumb sense of obedience that leaves me to feel this way. And even though I know I'm a lucky boy, I get days where I want to die. Oh, I can't complain, but I will. And from my convenient position, I would kill to be the bad man with his fingers away. Alright.
This is Radio Fodder. You're tuned into the kitchen table, and that was Ballpark Music with Bad Taste Blues Part 2. It's a track off their second studio album, Museum, and it's just a great song.
I loved it. I
It's
haven't heard much ballpark music, which anytime I say that around anyone from Brisbane under the age of 30, there's just spluttering. It's gospel to them.
Yeah, there is a bit of that effect. I don't know.
Yeah.
They do have quite the cult following, and justifiably so. You're preaching to the converted here. So, a great song. I think I was listening to that in late primary school.
Really?
Probably. I would say so. And once again, it's just my life in Brisbane. There we are. But I won't stop listening to it. I don't think I could bear it. So this evening on the kitchen table, we are talking about place as something that we find constantly in music and in art in general.
Yeah.
Place is something that manifests itself in our thoughts, in artists' creative output.
It informs so much of who we are, location, because it's what gives us our sensory and emotional input. It's what produces responses in us and shapes who we are. So it makes sense that our art is then shaped by place, because that's part of
and it speaks
us.
to community and personal and also collective experiences of hardship and disadvantage at the same time. So much to think about in that. Anyway, so recently in this semester in the modern and contemporary literature subject that we both take, we read Dubliners by James Joyce.
Heavily located in one very specific place.
It is indeed. And I mean, the title alone is kind of suggests that this is a text about place. It's a collection of short stories, all set in Dublin. But I think more accurately, it's a text about people in a place, or the condition that they find themselves in as inhabitants of Dublin, and they find themselves under, to quote my lecturer. But it's a truly fascinating text, and it has some really remarkable characters in it. And no one's doing very well.
No one's thriving in Dubliners.
Yeah, it's really down.
It's a heavy atmosphere.
It is.
A bit suffocating.
Truly.
But please do share some of it with us.
I am. This evening, I'm going to read a little excerpt from the short story A Painful Case, which was published in 1914 in Dubliners. And I'm just going to read a bit of an excerpt that describes the character Mr. Duffy, who is a great example of this notion of people in a place. And you might say how place affects a person. So here we go. Mr. Duffy abhorred anything which betokened physical or mental disorder. A medieval doctor would have called him saturnine. His face, which carried the entire tale of his years, was of the brown tint of Dublin streets. On his long and rather large head grew dry black hair, and a tawny moustache did not quite cover an unamiable mouth. His cheekbones also gave his face a harsh character, but there were no harshness in his eyes, which, looking at the world from under their tawny eyebrows, gave the impression of a man ever alert to greet a redeeming instinct in others, but often disappointed. He lived at a little distance from his body, regarding his own acts with doubtful side glances. He had an odd autobiographical habit, which led him to compose in his mind, from time to time, a short sentence about himself, containing a subject in the third person and a predicate in the past tense. He never gave alms to beggars, and walked firmly, carrying a stout hazel. He had been for many years a cashier of a private bank in Baggot Street. Every morning he came in from the Chapellezoid on tram. At midday, He went to Dan Burke's, and took his lunch, a bottle of lager, and a small tray full of arrowroot biscuits. At 4 o'clock he was set free. He dined in an eating house in George's Street, where he felt himself safe from the society of Dublin's gilded youth, and where there was a certain honesty in the bill of fare. His evenings were spent either before his landlady's piano or roaming about the outskirts of the city. His liking for Mozart's music brought him sometimes to an opera or a concert. These were the only dissipations of his life. He neither had companions nor friends, church nor creed. He lived his spiritual life without any communion with others, visiting his relatives at Christmas and escorting them to the cemetery when they died. He performed these two social duties for old dignity's sake, but conceded nothing further to the conventions which regulate the civic life. He allowed himself to think in certain circumstances he would rob his bank, but as these circumstances never arose, his life rolled out evenly, an adventureless tale.
Amazing.
Amazing, and also just like so like
Depressing.
this character is just so kind of beaten down.
The analysis, that sentence where he analyzes the grammatical structure of his own thought process, is just so
that kind of alienation from himself.
Yeah, it's vaguely
it's quite
devastating to me. His awareness of how dry he is.
Yeah, truly. Also, just on a completely superficial side note, but totally accurate, or maybe appropriate for the kitchen table, is that his lunch is a large lager beer and a small tray full of arrowroot biscuits. Like, what a lunch!
Yummy.
Yeah, damn.
That's what we'll be eating next week on the kitchen table.
Yeah, we're having beer and biscuits. Yeah, just a really striking description of a single character in that short passage, and Dubliners is just full of things like that.
Yeah.
And with striking consistency across many of the characters.
Well, thanks for sharing that passage, Hugo. We both read this text for literature, and I initially found Joyce's writing quite hard to get into and was struggling with it a little bit. And you sent me a song or part of an album which totally opened the text up to me and changed how I read it. So tell me.
I'm so pleased that it had that effect.
It really
on you.
helped.
I read.
Explain the connection. Yeah.
I read the book over the semester break and really just kind of let myself enjoy it before I had to do any work relating to it. And I am a big fan of this Dublin band called Fontaines DC. I was introduced to them by my dad, and I decided just to really get in the Dublin mindset for a Dublin book. And so I played Fontaines DC on very heavy rotation. So we're going to hear a very, very Dublin intense track this evening from Fontaines DC. It's called Big, and I think we'll just let you figure it out for yourselves. I don't think you'll miss the Dublin iconography.
in Joyce or this song.
Dublin in the rain is mine, a pregnant city with a Catholic mind. Starts those sheets for the birdhouse jail, all mescaline when the past is stale. Pale, Dublin in the rain is mine, a pregnant city with a Catholic mind. Slick little boy with a mind of Ritz, pulling that thread for the next big fix. My childhood was small, my childhood was small, but I'm gonna be big. But I'm gonna be big. My childhood was small. My childhood was small. But I'm gonna be big. But I'm gonna be big. But I'm gonna be big. Well, Dublin in the rain is mine. A pregnant city with a Catholic mind. Starts those sheets for the birdhouse jail. All mescaline when the past is stale. Pale, Dublin in the rain is mine. A loose ambassador for all that crime. Slick little boy with a mind of Ritz, pulling that
My childhood was small. My childhood was small. But I'm gonna be big. But I'm gonna be big. My childhood was small. Ah, yeah. My childhood was small. But I'm gonna be big. But I'm gonna be big. But I'm gonna be big. I'm gonna be big.
You're listening to The Kitchen Table. This is Radio Fodder, and that was Fontaine's DC. Big.
But I'm gonna be big.
I'm gonna be big. Fantastic. And it's such a punchy song. I mean, that comes in under 2 minutes, and yet it just carries so much energy.
And I think that's why it really helped me access Joyce's text, because a lot of the characters are so beaten down and trodden on in this text by the weight of life and expectations and failed dreams and paralysis, like you said. And that I found it sort of impenetrable, and then this upbeat tune somehow with all of its Dublin iconography just it felt like an anthem of these people, and it really helped me get into it.
It does.
So.
It opens things up, and it just it sets you in such an excellent mindset. I was traipsing around the city, you know, carrying this book and listening to Fontaine's DC incredibly loud. I feel like it's the only way to do it. And it puts you in quite the mood. Quite excellent.
I wonder if Joyce would be a fan.
I think Joyce would be a fan. Fontaine's DC references Joyce in many songs.
Yeah.
They have another track that has a line like describing someone with a face like sin and a heart like a James Joyce novel.
Ooh, that's an interesting heart to have.
But yeah, these guys have a really interesting backstory, and themselves came up from unassuming lives like the ones that we read in Dubliners, and kind of explored their own identities as almost seeing themselves as characters in Dubliners. As was kind of the artistic process, as kind of identification with, and then kind of, what would you say, the pride that they found in that.
But also transcending, maybe. I mean, yeah, Joyce sets out a framework, but I think they take it a bit further.
They do. They certainly push the boundaries. It's fantastic. Well, that's been this evening's exploration of place. I think we've covered a lot of ground, especially geographically.
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have an even better understanding now of how place is such a complex concept that does wiggle its way into so many of the tracks that we like to listen to. Yeah,
and how we listen to them as well. Like,
yeah.
The difference between being able to visually connect to a place that's been sung about, or thematically. There are just so many ways that it informs our listening and experience.
Music comes from a place. It puts us in a place. Sometimes those two places don't match.
Sometimes they're not even physical places.
Oh, fantastic. Well, look, if you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you follow us on Instagram. Our handle is @thekitchentable.radio.
And make sure to tune in next week at 6 p.m. as per usual.
On Thursdays. We will be joining you again for another episode, talking about who knows what. But it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this evening, Eva.
And you.
And I think we'll leave things there, and we'll make sure you see you next week.
When the clock says it's time to close.